Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Room podcast, where we dive into all the facets of healthcare with experts who are leading the industry. Please join me in welcoming Scott Hozebin, the Chief Commercial Officer at StrideMD. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you for joining us, Scott. Can you tell us about yourself and what you do at StrideMD?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Sal. I appreciate it. And I love talking all things med tech. Myself, I guess a little bit about me. Grew up in Connecticut, moved down to Florida maybe about 12 years ago. Growing up, had always been, had an entrepreneurial side to myself, had owned a number of businesses, went to school, had some interest in the medical area, so did a lot of the classes around biology, kinesiology, anatomy, those types of things. And um, I had owned my own business that paid for me to go through college. So having an interest in medicine and a background in business, looked towards the medical sales pathway. I remember someone telling me about the job originally, and I said, "There's no way." As an 18-year-old, I thought, and my friends said, there's this job, you get to go talk about science and it pays well, and you go out to dinner with the docs, play golf, which you used to be able to do back in the day. I said, there's no way someone's paying you, six figures to go, learn about science and go to dinner. And sure enough, it was a real job. So investigated that, did well, and really, made a niche for myself around bringing transformational medical technology to market. With the first company I was working with, they brought a new class of Alzheimer's medication, antidepressants, another alcohol treatment, and a number of these medications that were new to market. And then later moved over into the med tech space with a company called Dexcom, which made a continuous glucose monitor. And back then it was, again, the communities, it's new to the market. The community was leery and everyone said, don't do this. And I was so fascinated that if this works, this is such a groundbreaking thing. And, I went with that job, and it took a long time, but we really made a material difference in diabetes management, bringing good continuous glucose monitoring to patients around the world. At this time, where I started, there was maybe 20 or so people, and just left and came to StrideMD last year. When I left, we were over 14,000 people. So it's really interesting seeing when you can make something that does good and make a difference for the world, it scales pretty large.
That's super interesting, and thank you for the introduction. What is your workflow like? What's it like to be Scott for a day?
Yeah. So I guess, a normal day, I guess if people are interested in that kind of thing, usually 6, I start, check in on some of my LinkedIn messages and see what's going on there with the flow. I have a really large network of high-end med tech executives there, and usually what they're posting is very relevant to my world and what's going on in med tech. Then I start doing emails. I start hearing from, my product manager. He starts pretty early, so he's always sending me ideas that, around then too. So we'll get there. Then I get about an hour and a half with my daughter, get her ready for school, bring her to school, get to the office around 9. Um, and there it's meeting on my end as the chief commercial officer. I handle all things sales, marketing, partnerships, and acquisitions, and we have a lot going on in all 4 of those areas. So it's a variation of meeting with the inside sales teams, outside sales teams, marketing, both checking all of the different channels as far as physician marketing, direct to consumer marketing, our own sort of re-engagement campaigns for our own patients, and then looking into the partnerships that we're in working on. And then we're currently acquiring sort of brick and mortar endocrinology practices as well, at about 1 a month. So working through each of the different meetings with the lawyers or the practice owners that are selling their practice. And then, leave around 6 or 7, get my daughter. We go to the gym for an hour. She plays with her friends there. And we go home and then spend some time with my better half.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
How critical is technology in your day-to-day processes? What processes, tools, or tech do you rely on to perform optimally?
Yeah. Technology has become such a predominant player in our entire workflow. Like right now, I'm working with you, and here we are leveraging technology. I think where it's, I guess, two areas it's most pronounced is marketing, which we have a number of tools that do our A/B testing with ads as those go out. We have a lot of customer or resource manager, our CRM system that tracks as when we do place those ads and they become customers. How do you follow that patient journey from being someone who's just interested in the product to getting them completed to being a customer or a patient of ours to now then servicing that patient? And we have technology that's mapped throughout that for sending out text messages, email messages, the phone systems, which we all take for granted in everyday life as being fairly simplistic. But in an organization, the phone system there's one person's job that's all they do is manage the 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 technology of the phone system and its dialing patterns and the flow. So that's another big piece of equipment. Then we have on the service side, or we're rendering care. All of our practices are using an electronic medical records. We're a member of several health information exchanges that take data and put it together to paint a better picture of what's actually going on in our patients' lives. And then we have our own proprietary remote monitoring software of these. We're primarily diabetes focused disease state management company at this time, and a lot of that revolves around glucose readings. How high is someone's blood sugar? So we have people 24/7 looking at those readings as they stream in to look for outlier readings. And the technology, what would have been very manual, say even 10 years ago, now we have technology that can look at all of our patients and really ping the user of when there's outlier readings that we need one of our health coaches to intervene on. So it's really a lot of different tech stacks, and would love anything in particular you're interested in. I'd love to talk about.
Yeah, I'm wondering in terms of that tech stack, do you feel like either infrastructure, reliability, speed, or quality is a problem for you?
In our infrastructure, I think speed, quality. Everything is always important. I think speed, quality. I would say, if you put reliability under quality, that reliability in a system is paramount to everything else, because um we want everything quick, but if it was a little slower but it never broke, that's a lot better than it working really fast sometimes. So I think in the systems, as you scale, and being someone who's gone through a number of scaling businesses, it's important to have reliability in your systems.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. What are your thoughts about AI?
Yeah, I think
It,
it's where that's applied. Everybody throws AI on their ads now. A lot of it isn't AIs. It's someone using a formula in an Excel spreadsheet or some C plus coding, and then they throw AI. But it's where it's appropriately applied. It's wildly transformational, because you can use this predictive technology to look at waveform data for diabetes patients on their continuous glucose monitoring devices and predict when people are earlier, provide triggers to provide earlier intervention for hyperglycemic events. Can we're using AI to identify like what patients with different criteria become a higher risk. We know, that say 65 and over, and they have two or more comorbid conditions, they go to the hospital at 72 times per 1,000 patients versus if they had one, it's 30. So like, okay, let's sort by who has two or more. And, so you can, triangulate, interventions on large populations, and I think make what interventions you are going to do stronger. I mean, there's no question it's a critical piece. I don't think it's anywhere near its, you know, completion of its usefulness in healthcare. I think we're, if you look at a timeline, or if you look at schooling we're at the kindergarten stage.
Yeah, that makes sense. It brings the question though, are healthcare companies supposed to be focused on doing what they do best, which is give great health to people, or should they be focused on trying to hire AI engineers and building their technological stack in-house and going through that entire process of engineering? Which side does it make sense for healthcare companies, or how do you think they should move with AI being such a big provider of impact here?
I think, you know, it, so I think, you have to think holistically. Should a company, as your individual provider, Dr. Smith, internal medicine doctor in New York City, going to start hiring an artificial intelligence programmer to make things for his practice? Probably not. That's where, should a company that's doing $4 billion a year have a programmers creating AI interventions? 100%. So you have to look at, I guess, everything holistically in the system. The people who should be doing AI likely are. I think you're likely, what's happening though is it's a bit siloed in the environment. So I think the stage we're at now, if you think of your hand, you have a number of different developers or innovators that are creating an individual finger. For us to really realize the benefit of AI, we've got to combine these fingers into a hand. I think that's likely going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years through, mergers and acquisitions to sort of bring feature sets together that are complementary. At this point, that's really the struggle for adoption within healthcare, is that, no, most of the solutions are very like singular in their function and difficult to bring in, where once they become an entire tool set or stack, I think, and it's easier to integrate. We still have a major problem with, that the healthcare system mostly runs on EMR systems, electronic medical records, and we still don't have any national standard for a way that data is sort of universally stated inside of the programs themselves. And that's that's going to be a big inhibitor for us moving the system forward as in the long run. At some point that'll have to work itself out. But if you look at systems where they have sort of and I'm a very independent kind of person around, rights and duties, but this is an area where nationalization of standards is probably really important, because you look at Israel and they have sort of like a unified technology platform. That's one of the reasons you see so much med tech development come out of there. It makes, creating data and research a lot easier, and aggregating all of the country's medical data.
Yeah, let's dive into the adoption side of things. So, healthcare is pretty well known for moving very slowly with the adoption of technology. What do you think? What do you think it would take for healthcare companies, like, or what kind of outlook should healthcare companies have in terms of adopting uh, AI into their processes, into their workflows. What are your tips on that?
Yeah, I think I mean, I guess, it's easier if you have any specific area, but if I'm thinking generally, some of it is around, where are your best use cases? I think right now, one, forget even who's making it. Like, say something's already made. Most of these use cases are much safer to use where they're augmenting human involvement and not replacing human involvement. Simple instance is, we're looking at um, creating a AI interface with predictive recommendation engine for our health coaches, but it wouldn't replace our health coaches. It would be internally facing. We wouldn't show that externally, so that if you have a anomaly in the output from the data that doesn't make sense, a human is there to go, okay, it doesn't make sense to tell Mrs. Jones you should eat, more squirrels and car tires to get, you know, better body weight. Like, you never know when an AI algorithm just throws out a wild anomaly that would sound, could be in one side really funny, but on the other side, it could be really dangerous if you were spitting out someone's insulin dosage and said, hey, you should take 100 units of insulin right now to go drop 20 points, and that could kill someone. So I think we're at the point where we need to be leveraging these tools in a responsible manner so that it can be, augment humans rather than replace them.
What about the team you lead? What kind of challenges are they facing with the adoption of AI? And what type of technical solutions, whether automation related or AI related, do you think would improve their performance?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're really working hard now on is evaluating, like our conversational AI strategy with using companies like Core AI, Elise AI to, can it take inbound calls? Can it make outbound calls? And you have things outside of just the AI itself. You have state and federal laws that revolve that that change where your best use cases are as well. So, just from a liability standpoint, you're better using this stuff, uh, inbound calls because there was customer intent. You don't run into sort of as issues there around TCPA complaints and things like that, doing outbound marketing. If they're a previous customer, it's much smarter. If they're a current customer and you're sending interventions and things or education, there's a lot of great use cases, but it's, how dynamic is the conversation need to be, what level. These are the things I think, as far as like we go through, I think you're probably as you talk about like your biggest barrier to entry is setup for these are can be quite extensive. So you have companies that are willing to say set up something like a conversational agent, but they may have a really high minimum commitment that you're going to stay with them for. So if they do it and it doesn't work great, now you're still stuck with this contract. So I mean, it's a weird situation to be like, hey, buy this car, but pay me to put the car together first. So that's where a lot of AI solutions are now, because there is a lot of lift creating them. So a lot of the vendors, want the money to sort of build it out before you even could use anything or know if it's valuable for you.
Super interesting. So it definitely seems like there's going to be a lot of experimentation that needs to happen before we're able to find a clear path forward in the adoption of AI. So, what are the top three technological improvements that you believe would have the most impact for you in 2024?
Um, for this year, you mean with our organization or with healthcare at large?
Either or.
Yeah. I think, for our organization, one of the things that I think makes the largest impact for us is creating sort of like a unified tech stack that implements the latest technology. Right? It's we've engaged with several companies that are an expert in this area, and the experts don't seem to be experts. We there's a lot of tools, and no one seems to be universally adept at knowing which tools interface best with the other tools. And then you have to map these things out individually, one at a time. It's very complex to see who plays nice with the others. It goes back to that hand strategy. It's we everybody keeps making an individual tool for one use case, but no one's not I shouldn't say no one, not many people's business is just one little rabbit hole. It's a combination of a number of them, and that's for what we're one of the largest lifts that we're working on now is what is in 2024 the best unified platform to achieve all of our services, and then be able to visualize that in one layer for our all of our staff. So that's, I mean, if that's number one, and then you have, from there, the implementation within that stack of what AI solutions are implemented. We're looking at it for quality assurance purposes, dialing efficiencies, clinical, improvements. There's just a lot of areas where where we can implement the AI. I think one of, an easy example is like the AI scribe feature with inside eClinical. Really nice new feature that would normally have to be a human being standing there and can now take out, data. But how does that work? And then now, how do you implement that to a physician who's 70 years old and has been using paper charts for the last 40 years? Everything sounds nice in theory, but when the rubber hits the road, we're in a people business. So then you have to get the tech to work right. And then how do you get the people to work with the technology right? And I think, nailing sort of, I guess those are three areas or a funnel that we're working through would make the biggest difference for us.
Wow, what an adventure. My concluding thoughts are that AI has a big role to play in healthcare this year. Implementing AI really well will provide the most impact out of anything. It was such a pleasure having you on the show, Scott. I'm looking forward to having you on for future episodes.
Great. Thanks, Al. Appreciate it.